Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Jasodanandana Vajjana Ranjana. Jasodanandana Vajjana Ranjana. Jamunitira Vanatari. Jamunitira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Jasodanandana Vajjana Ranjana. Jamunitira Vanatari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariba Jagajaya Siddha Shisham. His Divine Grace Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namchar Shridas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki, Mathura Dham Ki, Dwarka Dham Ki, Navadip Dham Ki, Jagannathpuri Dham Ki, Jamuna Mai Ki, Tulsi Maharani Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Sambhira Bhakti Vrinda Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Sri Radha Giridhari Ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki, Go Premanande. All glories to the Sambhava devotees. All glories to the Sambhava devotees. All glories to the Sambhava devotees. All glories to the Divine Lotus Sita, Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Now, I need the Bhagavatam. Krishna Swadamo Bhagate Dhammaganadi Bisaha Kalanda Sadha Sammesha Parano Kodadodata Narayana Namaskritya Naram Shaivam Narottama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tudhojaya Mudirayat. The Bhagavatam has arisen just after a part of Lord Krishna to his own abode. Thank you. Accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness of the age of Kali shall get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer respects to the personality of God in Narayan, the Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, the goddess of learning Mother Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the 5th canto, chapter 14, text 13, the forest of material enjoyment. And we're going to be led this morning, because Dravid is on a Zoom class, by Pandita Mogalila, who's going to chant the Sanskrit. We're going to test him out.
Ekada sat prasanga nakritamatir vyudaka srotaschalanavad ubhayatopi dukkadam pakhandam abhiyati.
Kijai, thank you. And David doesn't want it, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to do the word for word. Ekada. I guess you all have devices. You can, okay, whatever. Sometimes. Asat pasangat. By association of non-devotees who are against the Vedic principles and who manufacture different paths of religion. Nikritamati, whose intelligence has been brought to the abominable status of defying the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vyudakashrota, into rivers without sufficient water. Skalanavat, like jumping. Ubhyata, from both sides. Api, although. Dukadam, giving distress. Pakantam, the atheistic path. Abhayati, he approaches. Translation. Sometimes, to mitigate the distress in the forest of material enjoyment, the conditioned soul receives cheap blessings from atheists. He then loses all intelligence in their association. This is exactly like jumping into a shallow river. As a result, one simply breaks his head. He's not able to mitigate his suffering from the heat, and in both ways he suffers. The misguided conditioned soul also approaches so-called sadhus and swamis who preach against the principles of the Vedas. He does not receive benefit from them either in the present or in the future. Also let's just read the purport. Cheaters are always there to manufacture their own way of spiritual realization. To get some material benefit, the conditioned soul approaches these pseudo-sannyasis and yogis for cheap blessings. But he doesn't receive any benefit from them, either spiritually or material. In this age, there are many cheaters who show some jugglery and magic. They even create gold to amaze their followers, and their followers accept them as God. This type of cheating is very prominent in Kali Yuga. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur describes the real guru in this way: Samsaradava nalalila loka, Chanaya karuna ganaganatvam, praptasya kalyana gunarnavanya pasya, bande guroshri charanaravindam. One should approach a guru who can extinguish the blazing fire of this material world, the struggle for existence. People want to be cheated, and therefore they go to yogis and swamis who play tricks. But tricks do not mitigate the miseries of material life. If being able to manufacture gold is a criterion for becoming God, then why not accept Krishna, the proprietor of the entire universe, wherein there are countless tons of gold? As mentioned before, the color of gold is compared to the will-o'-the-wisp, or a yellow stool. Therefore, one should not be allured by gold manufactured by yogis, but should sincerely approach a devotee like Jadabharat. Jadabharat instructed Rahugana Maharaj so well that the king was relieved from the bodily conception. One cannot become happy by accepting a false guru. A guru should be accepted as advised in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.21. Tasmat gurum prapadyeta jigesho shreya uttamam. One should approach a bona fide guru to inquire about the highest benefit of life. Such a guru is described as follows: Shabde pare chanishnatam. Such a guru does not manufacture gold or juggle words. He is well versed in the conclusions of the Vedic knowledge. Vedascha sarvaya ahameva vedyo. He is freed from all material contamination as in fully engaged in Krishna's service. If one is able to obtain the dust of the lotus feet of such a guru, his life becomes successful. Otherwise, he is baffled both in this life and in the next. Om Aganatam Randasya Gyanagana Salakaya Jakshushimilikant Gena Tazare Shi Gurave Namaha. So, as is said, if I go to 7-Eleven and I say, I'd like to buy a diamond ring. What do you think, Ram? Is that going to work out? What will... Doesn't our Govardhan work at the 7-Eleven over here? He's a crafty fellow. I'm the clerk at the 7-Eleven, and I'm not very scrupulous, let's assume. Somebody comes in and asks me, you can see the money falling out of their pockets, and he says, I'd like to buy, Jai Maharaj, I'd like to buy a diamond ring. What will you, if you're not scrupulous, and you see this fool with money falling out of his pockets, what will you think? Well, here's a prime pigeon, you know? Here's a mark, as they used to say. And you'll pull out some plastic ring with a, what is it? Zircon? What is it? What do they call that fake diamonds? Huh? What'd you say? Zirconians. Yeah, thank you. Did you ever work at a 7-Eleven? No. And, it's a useless thing, but he doesn't know. Obviously, if he's asking for a diamond ring in his 7-Eleven, he's not really the sharpest bulb in the chandelier, brightest bulb. So you think, I can cheat him. So, successful diagnosis. Yeah, you have to have a good doctor. You have to have a compliant patient. You have to have potent medicine. Fine. But before all of that falls into place, if you actually want to have your disease cured, what do you need? A proper diagnosis. You got to have a proper diagnosis. Otherwise, you're just shooting in the dark. So the point is, as we were describing last Sunday, and as it's going through this as a theme, we're suffering. It's Sanatana Goswami's first statement. Who am I, and why am I suffering? And if somebody can't admit that, I'm having a great time. Just like when I met the devotee, I said, "Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm having it's high times and what is high tide and green fields. I'm having a great time." And then the devotees pointed out to me, well, there's one thing about this world. I said, yeah, what? He said, nobody gets out alive. It was Shukadev. Anyone know he was a fiery guy? And I thought, he's got a point. The music's going to stop, and it's all going to come to a screeching stop. So, and of course we know because we're thoughtful, but animals tolerate. An animal will just tolerate. They don't go to the dentist. They don't form a union. You don't find the, whatever it is, the oxen forming a union. Say, hey, we're not doing this. Forget it. We don't want oats anymore. You got to come through with some apples. We want some apples now and then, or we quit. We're going on a sit-down strike. They just accept. And you see those dogs in Vrindavan? Whoa. Of course, they're better than a dog in Vrindavan, their next life, But still, when they say it's a dog's life, and I saw, anyway, it was some where you could get your dog washed and fluffed and perfumed. I remember we had a dog. We had a family dog. His name was Patrick. He was an Airedale. It's an Irish dog. And I don't know how often, but they'd send him to be bathed, You ever seen it? They'd fluff him all up, and they put a bow at the end of the thing, I remember he'd look so embarrassed. He'd come back, He's not very happy about the whole experience, But the pampered pooch, that's what I was thinking. So, okay, it's a dog's life, pampered pooch in America. But you see those dogs in India, they're just bent tail and patches of bear and, So they know they're suffering. But here, dogs in India are usually pretty humble. You hut, off they go, But you have to, the human form of life, to actually begin to make progress. What is the highest motivator? Actually, love is a motivator, is the best motivator. But generally speaking, as far as in the business world, pain is a much stronger motivator than intelligence and high morals and all. Forget it, man. If there's pain, loss, you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your IRA account, man, they'll do anything. So the point I'm trying to make is that the recognition, which is unique to the human form of life, is that this is not, it's got to be better. I'm suffering and I want to change. Now, unfortunately, the example is given here. Of course, it quotes that verse, Samsara Dava, that this world is on fire. And there's the famous fire sermon by Buddha, that the tongue is on fire, the eye is on fire, the sense, everything's on fire. It's burning. Krishna says, lust burns like fire and never satisfied. So the human form of life, they recognize that, that's what I was going to say. So if there's a fire, and we saw it, there was anybody around when there was that fire that burned all the way, burned Dr. Majumdar's house? Burned all the way, I think it burned all the way to Del Mar. Yeah. So if you drove from here to Laguna Beach, you go through Camp Pendleton, and there's all kinds of, on Camp Pendleton, because it's, open range, there's all kinds of deer and all kinds of animals. And the fire burned all the way up to the 405. And in the first couple of days, you'd see these animals all singed. There were deer all along the freeway up against the fence because they just ran from the fire. But it's very common, and anyway, it's a long story, I won't go into it. But you see deer, you see cattle. They'll go into, if there's a reservoir, they'll go into the water because there's, But so a human being, there's a cliff. So it's supposed to, there's a lake or the river's here, and there's a cliff, and there's a forest fire coming. So I gotta get relief, right? So I do a swan dive right off the cliff into the river, right? But what if the river's only 6 inches deep? Well, that didn't work out too well. I got the fire and I cracked my head. So that's the point it's making here. That we were saying the last time that the jiva, the nature of the jiva, is to take shelter. Like they used to advertise that it was a menthol cigarette called Cool. Cool, the puff that refreshes. And I remember thinking as a kid, you're breathing in something that's burning. How is it going to be cool? I mean, even as a kid, that doesn't really line up accurately. So everyone's looking for relief, but that's the nature of the jiva. And they have the intelligence to figure, well, there's got to be another way to go about this. There's got to be more. I'm suffering. How do I fix this? Okay, fine. But does one, as it's describing here, they're trying to take shelter of things that don't actually satisfy. Should you, if there's something broken, I don't think you'll mind. Pavamana Prabhu, who is a saintly person, Pav. So Pavamana Prabhu and I, we were driving up to Yosemite. Gunagraj Maharaj was chanting in the summertime. We have a little pandal he'd set up, and it's a great spot for chanting and preaching out there. That's a national park, Yosemite. And so we were sleeping in the van, and it got cold at night. So it's just the two of us. We had a little Mangal Arti, and I had the ghee lamp, and I handed him the ghee. Passed him the ghee lamp, and he leaned forward and he went to smell it. I said, "No, Papa." He was so tired. He was thinking it's the flour or whatever, So I said, "Pav, how come you're so tired?" He said, "Oh, it was so cold in the van last night. I couldn't sleep." I said, "Well, why was it so cold?" He said, "Well, somebody left the window open a crack." And I said, "Well, why didn't you shut the window?" He said, "I was too tired." So, we've all done things like that. I'm not making fun of him. I mean, obviously, if I were to list the things that I've done that were silly, we'd be here all week. But he couldn't sleep because the room was the van was cold. It was cold because the window was open, but he was too tired to shut the window. So we try to solve things. If there's a problem, if something keeps blowing off, it keeps falling off, and I keep putting it back, it falls off. I put it back, it falls off. I put it back, it falls off. Okay, well, I could do that forever. And when I put it back, there's a little solution, right? But wouldn't it be better just to get a hammer and nail and solve it once? Solve it once. That's intelligence. So here we are in the human form of life, and all we're doing is patchwork solutions. That's all it is. It's a little too hot. Like now. We finally got a heater, right? 40 years. Jamuna Patiki Jai. Finally got a heater that works. It's too hot. You know, take my hat off, take this off, you know. I had it planned just right. You know, I wear my shirt, my kurta, I have a t-shirt underneath, I have this. It's all layered. And it's just right when it was cold. Now I'm going to have to figure out a whole new thing, you know. And I've been doing this 40 years. It's a little hard to break the habit, you know. But so what's the intelligent? No, not take out the heater. That's not the intelligent answer. But the point is, why not solve a thing once, permanently? And if you're, famous example, Prabhupada says, if you want to wash coal to make it white. Who's new? Giridhari Priya. You're not new, but just for fun. If I give you Giridhari Priya, he's a very nice Brahmin. He's very clean, neat, orderly, intelligent. So don't get puffed up. We're going to get it at the end. too late for that. Anyway. So if I give him a lump of clay, a lump of coal, and I say, Giridhari Priya, can you just wash this? I need it as white as your dhoti, not your sweater. I need white as your dhoti. And he says, you know, Maharaj, it's not going to happen. I say, what? Are you lazy? Because he's very energetic. What is this? No. I'll give you, a scrub. I'll give you handy-dandy suds it all soap. You know, works on anything. You got good muscles. Go for it. What's the problem? He can have the best accoutrements. He can scrub till hell freezes over. He can wear it away to a nub. Will it ever become white? Why? It is the nature of the thing. And what we've got to get through our heads, it's this material body, it's just, as Rukmini says, you know, it's bags of stool, this and that. I love it. And the last line is decorated with a mustache. You know, you put a little, spruce it up, your hairs fall out, you know. You see all these people, I won't mention names, but there was one, anyway, I don't want to make it too close, but you get a comb over, you know, it's so silly. You're going bald on top, and every time you'd offer obeisance, it'd flap over, you'd have to pat it back and open it. Well, that didn't work. You get a cap. The wind, there's so many things. So the material nature is not kind. You know, it embarrasses at every possible step, you know. You know, Sura Prabhu, who passed away, and Sura was one of our heroes, certainly a hero of the BBT. You know, he's just, anyway, a wonderful person. But he always looked like he climbed out of a laundry bag. He won't mind. Anyone, you know, Sura, he always says. So he was traveling to different temples to give classes on book distribution. And so Ramaswar was the GPC at the time. And Ramaswar said, listen, I want you to go over to, he's based in LA. And Ramaswar said, I want you to go over to the gift shop. And I want you to buy a new kurta and a new dhoti that match. You know, it's on the house. You get two. And you that way when you speak, because Prabhupada said first you should dress, then you can address. I mean, you can't, you know, we don't have gold studs and all that, but neat and clean, you know. So you should look neat and clean, and people respect. So when Sir came, it was his first stop on his road trip was here in San Diego. And the whole time he gave class, he had his arms crossed like this. And I was thinking, you know, that's kind of and he looked uncomfortable. It wasn't just, you know, he wasn't affirming a point. So I thought, well, what's this all about? So then later on in the class, he was talking that every endeavor is covered with fault like fire covered with smoke, Krishna says in the Gita. And he went like this. And there were burnt marks across his brand new kurta. And what had happened, to have his sika neat and clean, he'd packed up some bringi oil. So, you know, nice, clean out his sika and tie it up like that, you know. And he put that in his suitcase. And the bringi oil had leaked all over his new kurta. So he stayed up, he washed his kurta out, and then it was wet, and he needed it for the next morning. So he hung it up on, you know those old heaters? You know, the big heaters with the bars across it? And it burnt the stripes, you know, across his kurta. He said, what can I do, you know? He said, I guess it's just my nature. But the point is that you can't cheat the material nature. So we realize that this body, it's a miserable contraption, you know? And the material nature. So what's the solution? The solution is to get out. So that's what's being described here. How do you measure a bona fide... I'll give you an example. So if someone blesses you, well, I'll just tell it. Satsvarupa Maharaj told me this story personally, that he was traveling with Srila Prabhupada. I've told it before. We got a new audience. Bhakti Sundar Maharaj will use it. You can. It's not. You can. No charge. It's free of charge. You can use it. So Satsvarupa Maharaj told me that he was riding in India with Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada liked to do some of his translating work when he was on a train. He would often. And Prabhupada had his own compartment, so he could, Shama Sundar stayed in there in the evening, but in a translating, Prabhupada was all alone, riding on a train. And next, I think they were coming from Mayapur. So there were a number of Bengali gentlemen on the Mr. Banerjee, Chatterjee, Mukherjee, all nice Bengali Brahmins. And they saw Srila Prabhupada. Here's a sadhu. So they were trying to get into, trying to catch Prabhupada's eye or slip in or make some excuse, And the devotees knew Prabhupada, he's doing his translating work. He doesn't want to be interrupted by, the G brothers. So what to do? So, and Harisari confirmed. He said it was like rugby. They were like guarding the door. Prabhupada was deliberately not making eye contact. They were trying to block. And somehow or other, Indians are expert at it, They got in. So they said, and Prabhupada, of course, being the perfect gentleman, put his pen down and put his dictaphone down. And yes. And they said, Swamiji, please give us your blessings. And usually you just say, what is it? Vishwapurna Sukhayana. You just raise your hand and you give some blessings, So Prabhupada, he's not a cheap sadhu, not an ATM. Prabhupada said, and what are those blessings? They were shocked. Usually they just get some ashtavad or whatever it is, So what are those blessings? And the man, kind of taken aback, said, well, I've got this arthritic knee. It causes me a lot of pain. Prabhupada made it look like, no, it was obvious that wasn't the right thing. And the man was smart. So then he said, and happiness for my family, happiness for my family. Like Prabhupada gives that great section of Nectar Devotion, how affection expands, first we care only about ourselves, then we care about our family, then we care about our nation, maybe, and it expands out. And maybe we say to all humankind, all the citizens. Well, what about the animals? They're also prajas. They're also citizens. But anyway, it expands out. So the man cut the point, and just asking about his knees, not the real thing. So he said, and for my family. Again, Prabhupada made a face. That wasn't the right blessing. So the man thought, and he said, and peace on earth and happiness for all. Prabhupada again made a face, wrong thing. And Prabhupada said, if you want my blessings, and he said, those are my blessings. And he pointed to Satsvarupa Swami. And anyway, Satsvarupa Swami was austere, thin, like Sudam Brahmana. And he said, you want my blessings? Take this saffron cloth. Give up the world. And they said, oh no, Swamiji, oh no. And they were gone. So it was actually Prabhupada's intelligence, sublime. And he wanted to be left alone in peace, but he was polite. But as soon as they, if I get blessings from this Swami, Hari, one who takes everything away, I'm out of here. Zing, they were gone, But here it gives a list of what are the right blessings. I mean, how do you measure a bona fide spiritual master? And just one last thing, I was reading last night. This taking shelter of material solutions and material personalities. Well, I'll say it's a little personal, but why not? When my marriage unraveled, this is 1979, 1980. My very kind father paid for us to go to some marriage counselor. And she was British. She had a very clipped British accent and was very peaceful and, was offering her this sage advice and, was in her groove. She was in her element of, peaceful and, serene and pontificating. So I had to call her at home one time. And she just walked in the door. And, while she was talking to me, she was looking at the mail on her desk, And there was some bad news. And then the dog started barking. And then there was some UPS was banging on the door. And she came out with a string of swear words that you wouldn't hear from a drunk sailor. I was, whoa. In other words, the veneer was gone, And I thought, this lady's going to give us advice? I said, she's, can't even control her own senses and, dogs yapping at her and she lost her cool. So, and there's so many examples like that. You big philosophy professor and he's chasing like a dog after some 18-year-old girl. He's going to tell me the answers to the secrets of life? So the Prabhupada compares it, if you try to, dogs can dog paddle. They can tread water. I don't know how long. You could probably Google it and find out, but they can swim a little bit. Prabhupada said, trying to get out of this material nature by taking shelter of these mundane authorities is like trying to grab a hold of a tail of a dog and he's going to carry you across the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, what are the odds of that? So we have to know, like I was saying in the beginning, what time is it? Going to a 7-Eleven and asking for a ring, a diamond ring, mistaking it for Tiffany's, well, you're not going to get the right product. You're going to get cheated. So we have to know who is a bona fide spiritual master. Well, he's got a nice beard. I like the beard. And, he's got all kinds of koans. What's the sound of one hand clapping? And, he's talking about love. There was a guy, anyway, I won't spend too much time on it, and they come out with all kinds of bromides. Who was that guy, Yogananda? Paramahansa Yogananda? He has that book about self-realization. You know what Prabhupada said about him? And I hope it's recorded. Prabhupada said about him that he was a good shopkeeper. You know what makes a good shopkeeper? Yeah, in your front window, you have all kinds of different things to attract them, You have a nice variety, so they'll wander into your store. So if you read his stuff, there was some Buddhism, it was all done in thee and thou and whatever, like the Bible. And it was just, and when you read the thing, it was like cotton candy. Cotton candy, you throw water on, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. It was just fluff. What's this guy saying, Well, I can get the same thing in a Hallmark card, Well, get well soon, or, whatever it is, May the sun always shine and the wind be to your back. What the hell does that mean, So here's the criteria. It's not, some flowery words. It's not that they have a nice... Some of those guys wear that super shiny silk. They had their own. Whatever it may be. Here's the criteria. It gives the criteria right here. Where did I... it says right here. A genuine guru is well versed in the conclusions of the Vedic knowledge. He knows the conclusion, not just he can quote 1,000 verses. What's the use of 1,000 verses if you don't know the conclusion? Vedaisya sarvar ahameva vedyo. That I'm the source of the Vedas, I'm the knower of the Vedas. To whom I should, the Vedas you should know. It's freed from all material contamination. That's the sign of it. And what's the cornerstone? How can you tell? He's always engaged in Krishna's service. That's the sign of a bona fide spiritual master. And he can actually solve, he or she, they say nowadays, can also solve your problems. Prabhupada said, flowery words, something sweet. I remember when one of the first things I heard Prabhupada say, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I heard Prabhupada say, up at the old LA temple, I came late to the lecture, it was a long story, traffic. And first thing I heard Prabhupada say was, we have so many do-nots. I thought he said donuts. It's fantastic, But what Prabhupada was saying, do nots. And that's a bona fide, you go to a doctor, any doctor who tells you, you eat any damn thing you like. Like you said, I get those things, you probably get them too. The Spam, you know, it's for weight loss. Eat anything you want and just take this pill. $10 a pill, eat anything you want. You ever see those ads? You get them all the time. You know, lose weight while you're sleeping. You wear something. You ever seen that one? That's one of my favorites. Lose weight when you're sleeping. Yeah, they took the money out of your wallet. That's the weight you lost, you know. Your wallet's a little lighter. So, I mean, so anyone who says you can do anything you want, it'll all be fine, you can enjoy. No. There's yama and niyama. Don't do this. Prabhupada said if I hadn't introduced the 4 regulative principles, I would have millions of disciples. Devotees in Italy. Because I do want to get to one other thing. The Dhananjaya Prabhu told me this, that he spoke Italian. Now when the devotees opened the temple in Rome, nobody spoke Italian. Can you imagine? I mean, you know, talk about sign language. But, you know, the prasadam was good, and the kirtan was great, and they were making devotees. They had a little apartment, I don't know the size, but it was packed. The apartment was packed. They had the hallway was packed. The elevator was jammed and packed. You know, it was great. Chanting, dancing, que bel, que lindo. They're having a great time, right? Dhananjaya showed up, gave the talk, spoke about the 4 regulative principles. A whole audience got up and walked out. Lost them all. The devotee said, what did you say? Did you offend the Pope? What did you say? He said, well, I told them about the 4 regulative principles. They were out the door. That was it, man. Maybe they came back for prasadam. I don't know exactly the sequencing of things. But you have to be serious. That's a bona fide spiritual master. Sadhu means to cut. So that's what Prabhupada's talking about here, that we have to be serious, we have to practice. Because what does the sign on the building say? What does out in front, what does it say on the building? Anyone know? It's not a trick question. Okay, fine. It says Hare Krishna. You're right. I know. It says founder Acharya. But what else does it say? The International for Krishna Consciousness. You know, you see people that read on the ingredients. You want to see what's on the thing. You know, you're on traveling Sankirtan. You want to get some, whatever it is. You got to look and see what's in it. You know, So if you walk in here, it says International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and you say, hey, can I buy some radial tires here? No, you go across the street. That's not what we're about. It says right on the sign, honesty in packaging, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So when we're in the kitchen, should we be talking about the latest talk show or gossip? Or who's winning the war in Ukraine? When we're sitting out here on the patio, are we talking about the latest stock portfolio? What the hell's that got to do with Krishna consciousness? That's not what we're about. We are serious. And we understand there's do's and there's do-nots. And if I follow these instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, and of course Srila Prabhupada is our Shiksha, preeminent Siksha Guru for everyone, we just follow. And lo and behold, we'll solve all the problems in life once and for all. No more patchwork, no more coming back, you know, jumping in and having our heart broken, our head broken. No. Just follow it and you'll be successful. So we can, in there. Oh, I was thinking just one other thing as far as magic. It's not that there isn't magic. You know, in the Bible, I'm probably going to offend somebody here, but in the Bible, Jesus performs miracles. And that's actually what convinces them to follow him. I mean, Sermon on the Mount, I don't know what they actually took in from that. You know, blessed are the peacekeeper, you know, so many things. It's beautiful preaching, actually, Sermon on the Mount. But they're there because they want to hear about he raised Lazarus from the dead, or, you know, cured the lepers, or made all the fish and fed all the starving people. That's why they're tuned in. I saw a bumper sticker the other day. It said, God is good to me now. God is good to me now. And he was driving a brand new Mercedes. Well, that's why he thinks God was good to him. He, prayed and he won the stock market, Actually, it was his karma from a previous life. God wasn't involved in that. But what? God is good to me now. So God wasn't good to me in the past? I mean, what is that? I said the right prayer. I went to the right church. I gave money in the right donation. And then all of a sudden, all the levers of the universe lined up and click, like a jackpot. You get 3 cherries and all the money comes out. So all of a sudden, I went to the right place, said the right thing, and all of a sudden, now God is good. Previously, he ignored me or he wasn't. What kind of nonsense is that? So the point I'm trying to make is that just as a sidelight, if you think about the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it was the son of Srivas Thakur, was raised from the dead. As far as there's 2 lepers. There's a leper Vasudeva that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completely cured. You had Sanatana Goswami with his itching sores all over his body. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him, and his body was a beautiful golden color. So what? And as far as Jesus and the multitude of fishes, bread and fishes. We don't know about the fishes, but on one hand, out in the desert, there's nothing to eat. So maybe he fishes. I don't know. But you've got Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who takes the seed. He asks the devotees, after kirtan, you're chanting and dancing, they want some refreshment. There's some wisecracker, and the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, what would you like? Somebody in the back says, mango! It's out of season, there's no mango. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes a seed, puts it in the ground, immediately a tree comes up. And what was the special qualification of those mangoes on that tree that was planted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? All year long, it produced mangoes. Another qualification. No skin. And what was the last qualification? They were so sweet that a man couldn't finish more than one. We had a mango, I don't want to offend anybody, Alfonso mango, India, okay, fine. But there was a Merida mango. Merida, you may know from about in the Yucatan. Wow, that thing was about this big, and the seed was paper thin. See, he can confirm. I'm not just making. And that mango was absolutely. I'm dreaming about it today. They were so sweet, just like what do you call it? A gulab jamun with a tang, and it was just unbelievable. So, but no seed on Chaitanya. So if you want miracles, it's all there in Chaitanya. But do we follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he cured the leper Vasudeva? That's just. It's just a blissful side pastime. We follow because of the instructions of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So everything's there in our philosophy, but it's the real deal and it works. Okay, we can end there. Okay? What time is it? Anybody got a burning question? I was praying you wouldn't say that. All right, we'll end there. Only because I've got to go. Thank you very much, Prabhu. All glories to Prabhupada. I'm sorry, Vijay, but I've got a call at 9 o'clock. Hare Krishna.